how to pick the best time frame for your sleep that actually works for you. In today's video, I'm going to break down how I walk through a client on picking the time frame for their sleep that's actually going to really help them not only to overcome their sleep problems and insomnia that has been around for a long period of time, but also learn how to adjust that sleep time frame if their lifestyle or their circumstances change. In my practice working with clients who have long-term insomnia and sleep problems, I teach people practical ways to really make sure that they understand how to create great quality sleep for many years to come. Develop sleep skills, develop tools, techniques, or exercises so that they can really actually first overcome their problems and then make sure that those problems don't come back again. So future-proofing their sleep as well. And picking a sleep time frame in a proactive and practical way is very much a conversation that I have with clients on a daily basis. There are a lot of different misconceptions about what is the best time frame to go to bed, to maybe even aim to fall asleep. There are definitely different misconceptions about how to wake up in the morning naturally, how to pick that actual waking up time in the morning so that you can have optimal sleep in terms of quality as well as quantity. And I'm sure if you have been researching on sleep, you have seen some of those examples and resources as well. But in today's video, what I wanted to really do is break it down in a practical way so you can take it one step at a time instead of just deciding that sleep time frame just because somebody said so. It's got to work for you. It's got to help you to be able to really optimize your sleep within that time frame. So intellectually picking a time frame isn't really always the best way forward. So what I'm going to share with you today is an answer to a question within my group sleep coaching program and a very specific client example. Now, obviously, within these videos, I don't share any very particular client information, but you will see how I break it down because I actually look at people's sleep diaries and then advise them accordingly. But one thing to bear in mind, just because I explained it to this client in this way, it does not mean that your sleep time frame is going to be the one that I recommend it to the client. So please don't self-diagnose, but it is really approach it in a way of learning how to appropriately actually pick the time frame for yourself. And if you've got any questions about it, you can pop them in the comments below later on. Now, before we go into the content of today's video, I wanted to welcome you back if you're part of my community already. And if you're new, then let me quickly introduce myself. So my name is Beatrix Schmidt. I'm a sleep coach, a professional speaker, and the creator of the Sleep Skills for Life program, which is very much my way of teaching people just like you to overcome their sleep problems and insomnia and make sure that they can future-proof their sleep as well for many, many years to come, hence Sleep Skills for Life. If you haven't yet subscribed, then hit that subscribe button below and hit that little bell as well so I can let you know when I post new videos. So let's turn our attention to actually walking you through the steps that I mentioned to the client during that conversation. So I share with you literally how I took the client step by step through that process so we can really figure out what is the right sleep time frame for him. There is no right and wrong. It's how I look at it is it's more of the time driven by the lifestyle you have. So just like when you travel to a different time zone, your body can adjust to a different time zone. So different lifestyles can require different things from you. But one of the things, and this is what I mentioned sort of in my message the other day in your with your question about feedback stuff, is what I don't like to see, and I'll explain this in a minute, is lots of different versions. Because if we take it back to this simple idea of, does your body and your mind understand at what time it requires to do what, in a simplistic rhythm way, not perfectionistic way, but in a way of a rhythm. if your sleep changes a lot across just a few days, and one day is this and one day is that, and one night you're sleeping 7 hours, another night you're sleeping 9, that's not rhythm. That's one day is this and one day is that, and it's not a problem that you don't have a negative influence. But what that also shows us that you're not in a flow rhythm across a 7-day period. So for example, me, I sleep pretty much the same amount of hours every single night, which means that my body is in a natural rhythm of what it's happening, at what time it's happening. It might shift, let's say, a half an hour time frame, but it's not going to shift an hour or two, both the night and the morning. So the reason I always suggest people to figure out what their rhythm is, and especially for you at this stage, you now know that you're much better than before. So this is now getting closer to really figuring out what your natural rhythm is, both in terms of lifestyle, but also figuring out what is your optimal amount of hours of sleep and quality of sleep that gives you enough energy to get through your daytime. So if one day you have 9 hours of sleep, another day you have 7, and this is just, I'm looking at that week, 15th you had 9 hours of sleep, the 17th, which is 2 days later, you had 7 hours of sleep. That's a big difference within 2 days. So what I'd like to see is more stable every day. Now, it's never going to be perfect 7 hours exactly, but I would like to see something between, I think you're going to be something around the 8. What it shows, the sleep diary shows, is that you're probably not more closer to the 7, because more of your days you have more closer to 8 hours than closer to 7. So if I look at just that week, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7 days you had 8 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 out of 7 days you had more than 8 hours of sleep. So that's more than 50% of the time. So I think, look at what your current lifestyle is. And sometimes what the answer is what is the earliest time you have to wake up at any one 7-day period, rather than what is the earliest time I can go to bed. Because if one day you have to get up by 7 o'clock and you have to set an alarm by 7 o'clock because you've got to go somewhere, that means that's the earliest lifestyle benchmark. Now, it's okay if you don't have to get up every day at 7, but the earliest is often what guides us. Now, there is a choice here. If you choose a lifestyle where you absolutely don't book anything before 9 o'clock, then you may not have to get up at 7 o'clock. But not every one of us has the choice, okay? So what I'd like to see from you is a stable time frame. So, and again, this goes back to the sleep diary review suggestions I had at the beginning for you, or closer to the beginning for you. So some nights, actually, again, just that week for you, 4 out of 7 days you didn't go to bed before 11, which again shows us that lifestyle wise, I think it's going to be somewhere between 11 to midnight going to bed. But that can only work if we then assume, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be around 8 hours-ish of sleep, that you give enough time frame till the morning of your commitments. So it's not just about picking the nighttime, but we have to pick the morning accordingly to your lifestyle. So if we say 11 to 7, and that's what would work for you, that would still give you about 8 hours of sleep, but then we have to figure out what your optimal is. If your optimal amount of sleep will be 8 hours, then you're probably going to need to sort of expand it a little bit, because sleep is transitional. So it transition to going into sleep and transition coming out of sleep. So you're never going to have perfectly 8 hours of sleep in a perfectly 8-hour time frame. okay? But I would work with the 11 to 7 rather than the kind of too flexible, okay? The only exception to that, I don't mind if you have a social commitment, but you're not going to be out every single night, okay? If you have a one out of 7 days when you want to stay up later, that's okay. But if it becomes more and more common to stay up later and you then have to get up in the morning, you're squeezing both ends, okay? So, and also don't sleep in just because you can, because it doesn't mean that's a better thing. Okay, so this 10-hour is a little suspicious for me. Either you overdone something, which means you needed more sleep because you exhausted yourself. Don't do too much either, right? So it's again going back to balance. Now that I've gone through all the different steps I actually go through with the client, it's over to you. Just like my client, it's completely possible for you to actually figure out what that best sleep time frame is as well. So approaching it in a practical way is really going to help you to pick the time you should be going to bed that is actually going to work for you, that is going to be best for you, and also picking the time to wake up in the morning that is going to give you the best chances of having enough quantity of sleep, but also improving quality of the sleep that you get at night as well. So if you haven't yet, hit that like button below if you enjoyed the content of today's video. If you haven't yet subscribed, then this is another invitation to subscribe to my channel and join my email community as well. This way I can really continue to support you in these different ways, explaining things in a different way, in a more practical way, so you can put all the things in place so that you can see improvements with your sleep as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.